we've made a game rule book, Legends of Avallen. We've made a campaign book now against the Fairy Queen, and now we want to make a source book for Avallen. And part of that will involve the player characters being able to devote themselves to a particular god, and perhaps be awarded by that, be rewarded for that. And in our world of Avallen, we have 5 deities, the Ever ones. There is the Ever Elder, the Ever Mother, Ever Father, Ever Stranger, and the Ever Child. And today we're going to talk about the Ever Child and what it means to devote yourself to them.
So, yeah. So it's an interesting question about worship, because when we think about worship in a setting like this, often we'll think of druids, and that's the person who's devoted in the game, right? But obviously, everyone will likely have their favorite or their cultural type thing, and we have to figure out what that means. And the Everchild is really interesting because of how we've described them as being like everyone in the Everones in the Everpact. They all have a different role, right? The Everfather, Mother, Stranger, the Elder, and the Child is the most interesting because you're worshiping. If you worship the Everchild, you ostensibly worship a young person from ages from centuries ago, which I think is interesting. So what was your inspiration? So in terms, I guess we could step back to the original inspiration for, because obviously the Everchild, these gods aren't in the original Welsh pantheon, right?
Right, yeah.
So did you have a specific inspiration for all these gods? Were they just sort of taken? I mean, especially for the Everchild, do you have like a reason why you chose to make one of the gods a child?
Yeah. I guess it's manifold. Lots of different reasons. Some lore, some mythology, some things I thought were cool, and some for game design. So we don't know much about we do know a lot about the Celtic gods, and of course the different gods in different regions. The Welsh had their deities, the Irish had theirs, the Scottish had theirs. There are a lot of overlap between them. You can often map one Welsh god to another Irish god, for example. Obviously we focused on the Welsh, but when it comes to the Welsh, a lot of it was, I don't know, the word I want to use is diluted, or I guess like tinted by like Christian writings that came afterwards, because a lot of these tales were oral, right? They're oral traditions, and then they were written down later by Christian priests, essentially. And so a lot of these gods were changed into heroes instead. So it's hard for us now, reading back, to decide who was a hero and who was a god. Because
there's a lot of Christian retconning, right?
Yeah, Christian retconning. Yeah, exactly.
It's a pretty usual way that things seems to happen after the and yeah, because it's funny too, because when we look at fantasy, living in the year 2024, fantasy has been popular by fantasy. Things of the other world, things that are not material, right, have been popular for as long as humans have existed, right? Because that's how pre-science, that's how we explain things. But it just seemed like you're right, like what you're describing is things constantly get funneled through other perceptions, including a Christian one. And then even now, as people living 2024 trying to deal with this mythology, we're also sort of funneling it through our sensibility.
Yeah,
right?
now we're reframing it as a game. So...
Yeah. Yeah, right. Like we're not trying to describe how the world was or should have been. Instead, we're saying, well, these are cool things, and here's how you play with them and pay homage to them, right?
But exactly, paying an homage is still getting to share it. So who is the Everchild? The Everchild is based off a few heroes or gods from the Welsh writings. A particular one I'm glad you asked, because I have them up here, is Gwydion. Gwydion was a trickster type character, who was most famous tale involves stealing otherworldly pigs from a king. to start a war, basically. To like frame someone else. You're gone.
And we mentioned in our book too that like there's a I think the phrase is that like the Cawr value hard work, but they also don't mind getting ahead with a shortcut, which is why they still like engage. They really value cow raiding, right?
Yes.
And I feel like these kind of things of like cow raiding and stealing pigs and so on, it's a big deal, right? Because that's like wealth.
Yeah.
Living in post-industrial society, I think we can forget that a little bit. I mean, that at least that's how I feel. I don't know how you feel about it. I know cows are important, but I always feel like cows, and as a person who grew up in California in the city, I'm like, oh yeah, well, stealing cows, that's not a big deal. I had a hamburger yesterday. But when you're living in an Iron Age society, it's like gold and milk and sustenance and food and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think part of it as well is there's some, I don't know, Celts, or in our world, the Varlic might reframe cattle raiding not as stealing, but as earning them through sheer force of will, right? Like, they wouldn't talk about it as stealing, they'd say it would be taking or overpowering other people to take it. But perhaps there's different ways of doing it as well. There's honourable ways, and then there's quite dishonourable ways, right? There's underhanded tactics, and then there's just tactics, right? And so perhaps the Cawr would be more devious in the ways that they might steal cattle than other clans might. Yeah.
Right. But from their point of view, it's a bit more like using their cunning rather than.
Yeah, exactly. I've outsmarted you, so if you can't handle that, well, that's down to you. That's not my problem, isn't it? Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, honor is really important in the world of Avallen, but every clan, has a slightly different view on that.
Yeah, what's honorable to us might not be honorable to you, but that doesn't matter because we care about what's honorable to us. Yeah, exactly.
For sure. And so we'll be developing this concept of what it means to be that kind of character. I would say that, so I think of the clans, the Pen Levy are probably my favorite, have a special place in my heart because they're so like dark. Yeah. But I would say the Pen Cawr are close second, or almost a very close second, because I think there's a lot of play there.
I'm bringing up a map of Avallen for stream to have a look at, so they can see what we're talking about. So yeah, this is our world of Avallen. The Raxian Empire are our Roman analogue. They invaded somewhat recently in the last generation and have appeared on the southeastern shores, which used to be ruled by the Cawr. The Cawr clan reigned over this entire area, and they ceded some of their territory to the Raxian Empire in exchange for an allegiance, for technology, wealth, etc. So the Cawr are often seen as traitors by the other clans, the northern clans, and in some ways they are, because they did join with the Empire to try and attack the north. But the Cawr just see it as a way to get ahead, as a sensible decision. Forward-looking as opposed to backward-looking. Yeah, what do you think about that? Why? How did the Cawr justify to themselves betraying the fellow Varlic by joining the Empire?
I interpret it like it says in the book. I do think there's like the Everchild is this kind of interesting figure where it takes up this mystical space similar like the two-faced god, right? And I feel like there were going to be some Cawr that are anti-Raxian, some that are pro-Raxian, and so there's a bit of a schism, right?
Yeah.
I don't think everyone was pro Raxian, and clearly not, because Gadok, a big plot point is that he escapes with some of the Cawr and starts a new thing, and he views himself as a real Cawr, right?
Yeah.
So to speak. So yeah, I think the ones that supported the Cawr, there's a bit. Do you recall the name for that? There's a historical equivalent for that, isn't there? Like the tribes that supported the Roman invasion and the tribes that were anti-Roman invasion.
I don't think so, particularly for Britain, but I know there was a term for peoples that become a part of the empire voluntarily. It's like Scotty or something, or Socky or some word.
Yeah. It's I have it in a book here. I don't have to necessarily. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's Socky Socky Soccii Socky.
Yeah, that's it.
And then Dediciti were the unfavorable record of resistance. So they were
peoples that voluntarily became a part of the empire, right?
Yeah, and then Dediciti, unconditionally surrendered people who were under the arbitrary authority of the Romans. Right. And so, but they were still both Welsh, so they were still part of the tribe. So yeah, I think there's like they're the tribe most likely to have this kind of like accept the tension within their own sort of clan kind of thing.
Hmm.
Like so on the
So would you
tribe
say
maybe
that Penkawa are probably the most like individualistic, or do you think it's more that
that's a good question.
maybe it's more that the Everchild doesn't have a particular. Well, we'll talk about this later. That wasn't the Everchild's goals. What do they want for Avallen? And it clearly has nothing to do with whether the Raxians are here or not, because the people are completely divided over it, and the Everchild hasn't weighed in. I think we have a quote somewhere from some druid begging the Everchild for guidance and never receiving any.
Never
silent
receiving
on it in the issue. Yeah.
No, I got you. Yeah. I'll have to. We'll try to find that. But yeah, I think. Maybe for me the best word might be they're conflicted, right? They're like, well, on one hand, we want to be the sort of masters of our domain, but on the other hand, there's a lot of great things that they bring over. So as long as we can, we try to like utilize that and embrace it. But I would like to think that a lot of the people, even if they're embracing the Raxian way to life, they still view themselves as Cawr. They view themselves as a hybrid, which to them doesn't like. There's no cognitive dissonance there. They're both.
Yeah.
They're Cawr, but they see this new thing and they're just integrating it. So they're the most ready to adopt things into their sort of worldview.
Yeah.
Which made it so easy, obviously.
And that moves, I guess, kind of segues into like the Everchild's influencer domains. Like they're not just about tricks, right? They're also about potential, and the future, right? The children represent the future, right?
No, that's true. You got to think about. There's a song about that. The children are our future.
So they are forward looking, right?
Oh, greatest love of all. Do you know that song? was in Coming to America. So
wait, the film Coming to America?
Yeah, you remember Coming to America?
I love Coming to America, dude. Yeah, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah. He starts with the song, I believe the children are future. Thank you. He said, well, let them lead the way. And it was like Eddie Murphy killing it. Anyway, good movie, good song.
Anyway,
so you're correct there. So yeah, I like that aspect, right, of potential. So the Cawr, even if they don't like the Raxians and they value old traditions, they still see the value of the technology that they're bringing over and the wealth and the ways they can use it and they see, well, if this is a stronger force and they have all these things we can use, we should learn from them in order to make ourselves more powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. In some ways, then, and maybe I'm biased, you tell me if this is off base, they kind of remind me of the Japanese philosophy towards technology and tradition, right?
I have no idea about that, so tell me more.
Well, like in Japan, historically, even though they're very traditional, once they sort of let the gates open, they can be very quick to adopt trends and technology as a society, but still sort of honor their traditions, and which is why in Japan, you have a high tech spotlight, high tech city like Tokyo, but you walk, every 20 feet. Yeah. If you've never been to Japan, every 20 feet there's like an old temple, right? Yeah, and there's no cognitive dissonance there. Yeah. There's like we value the present and with the power that technology has to bring, but we still honor our ancestors and the traditions that we were founded on.
Yeah.
And to me, that
for context for the chat, we might talk about Japan quite a lot because Kurt and I met there, and Kurt still lives there.
I still live. Yeah. I still. So if you have any questions about Japan, please ask.
Yeah, we'll enlighten.
For 2 seconds. So yeah, it reminds me of that, and that could be kind of but there's still this strong what do you call it, cultural sensibility about them, right? Like, because they're willing to embrace these things, the more they sort of latch on to their Cawrness. Like, they're just as Cawr as anybody, right?
Yeah.
Like the Everchild might have different faces and might have different might have 2 different ways of viewing something, but it's still a whole. And
I think the Cawr would say, like, from the outside looking in, the Pen Buyeth would say to the Pen Cawr, you're adopting Raxian things that's making you Raxian. But the Pen Cawr would say, no, what makes us Pen Cawr is that we adopt things. And that's what we would do anyway, no matter what empire it would be, or whatever it is. We take what makes us better and pushes us forward.
Yeah.
That's the part of us that makes us us. And you're focusing on the wrong thing, basically. Yeah.
They're the most progressive of the tribes.
Yeah.
Where if we were put them on a political spectrum, which we won't.
Yeah. I don't even want to start talking about that. Not because of that, because I have so many ideas. We'll probably disagree, and then we get just derailed completely.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. Yeah. So yeah, I like that. So that's the Pen Cawr. So if you're interested in having that mindset, this kind of, and there's something heroic about that, right? I think in myth, one of the whole things with like the hero's journey is the master of two worlds, right? Like the person who sort of crosses the threshold and comes back. I would like to think that's a view of heroism that the Pen Cawr really value, right?
Yeah.
Like I imagine the Everchild as this youth that sort of was pushed to doing something beyond their years too early, right? And that's why they're worshipped, and that's why they're held in such high esteem, because they're both. They're a child, but they use their childish sensibility to do something that no adult could, and transcend into the world of quote unquote legends and adults.
I guess for introductory purposes, we should at least talk about what the Everchild's legend is for anyone that doesn't know, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, would you like me to talk about that?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll write as you type.
So my understanding is that the Everchild was at least from the current juncture of viewpoint, we don't know their gender. So the way they manifest is that they're basically a non-binary youthful child god that was able to use their wits and cunning to overcome the sort of one of the most fearsome of the fifth, the Pen Cawr, which were the giants. And so there's this kind of David and Goliath type imagery involved, right? Where despite the Pen Cawr being these giant humanoid creatures, they were felled by the leadership and the planning of this clever child, and not through strength, because you could never outpower a creature like that. And it's unclear how they did it.
Yes,
but it happened, and so we're sticking with that now. That is something that we'll how do you say, bring to light in the near future, probably in the book, but we won't talk about it here. And so after they died, much like the other four Everones, they transcended into godhood, and they became the gods of the Pen Cawr clan. And the Everones, much like what Darren described in Wales, which is like a cool hillock, peaceful hillock or hill. We describe the other world as hillocks of the Everchild, which is it's a sort of weird space of contradictions, like a midday sky of gray clouds, like what Darren's experiencing now, where a green moon or a blue sunset can dominate the heavens, and the Tilith Teg entertain guests in their forts that are on hills that have this kind of weird non-Euclidean geometry to them, right? Like that's one of my favorite pieces to explore, this non-Euclidean geometry aspect, because the other world is not like the physical world. It doesn't necessarily have to abide by the physics as we know them, right? No. And I think my impression is the Everchild likes to play with that the most in their domain. They like the houses that are too big on the inside compared to the outside, and tunnels that are like 10-dimensional and fuck with your perspective of space-time, and they taper off and go to a bigger area that they shouldn't. Is our impression. So it's both kind of strange and unsettling, but also playful. And
yes, playful is the word.
Yeah, playful.
Childish imaginations is Sylphina exactly.
Yeah. Like definitely the manifestation of that, and maybe too that feeds into the whole idea of progress, right? Kids adopt. It's that idea of like, wow, here's this new thing. this is cool, let's play with it.
Let's play with it.
The arrival of the Raxians is more about like, oh, this is interesting, I want to explore this, and they dare to sort of like take them in and absorb them into their way of life.
I'm gonna write that down.
Let's
just here's this cool new thing, let's play with it. Okay, so I'm writing down now like the Everchild's influence domains. Like, why? Obviously, the Cawr worship the Everchild because the Everchild is their like saint, like the origin story, the original ruler and liberator, essentially. But why might someone who's not Cawr worship the Everchild? What domain? When would they turn to the Everchild for guidance or for worship? And at the moment, I've written down potential, which we just talked about. But I maybe we need a better way to like put a word on that as like a domain. Then influence, tricks, and games.
You go on. Sorry.
I
would argue that commerce would follow. They would be basically the god of commerce, right?
Yeah. I'll do influence / commerce. It's a similar kind of topic. Yeah, exactly.
So the god of commerce, because even though maybe the Evermother is the goddess of plenty and farming and so on, the purpose of growing food is to feed the next generation in a way, and that's the that's the source of it. And also the Everchild being sort of the clever two-faced. Commerce is also two-faced, right?
Yeah.
On one hand, commerce is this annoying thing that you have to do to sort of prove your worth to others, which can be depressing. But at the same time, commerce is a thing that brings in new ideas and allows you to express yourself to other people in like collaborative ways. So the two-sided face of commerce, a coin, is I would say that the Everchild is probably the Everone who's most readily represented on coinage.
Yeah, I mean literally, because the Ataraxians are the closest to the Cawr and the allies, and they would make coins. Then also, like, I keep thinking about this. Like, why is it the Cawr are the ones that are with the Raxians? And it's just all kind of perfectly wraps it together. Like you said, they're literally close to them, so that helps. But the fact that they are so ready to adopt other things makes it, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, yes, the Everchild is the most two-faced coin one. And then it's beautiful that then, yes, they would also be the most represented on coins because they've adopted this. I don't know. I'm talking in circles here, but I just think that's awesome. Like when I was talking from like a game designer perspective and from a fan of lore, like when things just kind of fit together like that, it's just really juicy. Yeah.
I agree with that. And Zilphia also has a good suggestion that Avengers 2, right? And invention of items fits hand in hand, and technology fits hand in hand with the concept of merchant commerce. And I mean, this sounds childish to me because we're game designers, but toys, right? Toys, we're adult game designers, so I think we have a strong bias towards identifying commerce with games and recreation and play, right? And which adults do too. You need coin to buy your beer, you need coin to have fun with other adults and so on. But I do think children are more sensitive to that in a lot of ways. Children are more sensitive to that because from a young age you realize that you can't get shit until you get money, right? And so it becomes a very valuable thing. Someone has to buy it for you, or if your parent does your job right, you get an allowance and you have that little bit to mess around with. At least that's how it's based. I don't know if you had an allowance when you were a kid.
So I'm saying who worships the Everchild? I put down merchants, inventors, and I guess when we get to tricks, then we'll be talking about thieves and things like that as well, right? Games.
Sure. So the question you had before of like, why would you worship the Everchild if you weren't of the Cawr? What would someone from the Pendraig want to do? Why would someone from the Pendraig want to worship the Everchild? So people who are in like I would also understand like educators, like priests. A priest might worship the Everchild, like someone who works with children, child carers, what do you call it? People who help birthing.
But then we also have the Evermother. Right.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I guess that'd be more.
I mean,
the
what
dead,
about
but,
children themselves? Right? The children must
like,
self-identify with a child god, right? They must.
oh, sure, yeah, yeah. So children themselves, sort
Yeah.
of, there's like this sort of Peter Pan-ish energy, like hoping
Yeah,
that.
Peter Panish energy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like
So
that.
children themselves, yeah, yeah. It's the definitely the god that they'll identify with the most.
I mean, the Everchild is a Peter Pan figure in a way. Like they do never grow old, right? So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, that's another excellent. And they go to another world.
Yeah, another good
Yeah,
touchstone. Yeah.
they go to a Neverland. Um, I could the Bing Tro. I cannot understand those words. Can you read those words?
Were you attacked by a cat on your keyboard as you tried to write that out on
Oh,
a tablet?
yeah, I got another one for you. Ready for this?
Yeah. Hit me.
Entertainers.
Entertainers, yes, my boy. Now we're talking. Yeah.
Because being an entertainer, whether you're an actor, a musician, there's always this sort of, and again, this relates to the Japanese mindset of the face you show and the face that's true,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think again, children, the only people who aren't aware of that are people who are in like very high positions of power where they don't have to give a shit because everyone has to do what they say. But children are very aware of this, right? Where you have the people you play with and you use a certain language, and you have the respect language used to your elders, right?
Yeah.
There's the two things, and entertainers are the same way. You have like the politeness you have to present to your audience, but you also have your your real feelings and your emotions that you have to share, and the way you supplement that. There's like this two-faced aspect to entertaining that I really like, and I could see entertainers, certain bards, and so on really have a affinity for Everchild's domain.
No, that's a really good one. Yeah.
And they want to have money, so because if you're a musician, you want to try to make your point where you can.
Yeah. And then I guess thieves as well, right?
Maybe let's say rogues.
Rogues, sure, rogues. Yeah, let's put a more positive spin on it. Rogues, yeah.
Yeah. Zopia says they could see the children passively worshiping the Everchild. Yeah, for sure. Like I see the festival that we describe in the book, because each one has a festival, and there's Casper's Day, which is like our version of
April Fools.
Like an April Fool's Halloween type trick. Where
did you do anything for April Fools this year? I think this was the year where I paid zero attention to April Fools. I didn't even look up anything that was foolish. Usually I check or maybe joke with someone, but to this year I just didn't.
No, I just feel like I was too busy.
Yeah, I know. We're losing our inner child.
Maybe. I think it's hard to say you're losing your inner child when you spend all your time thinking, talking about games, and also playing music and working with. I have my son too. I have my having a child is an interesting experience because you both have to be like the father, but you also want to play with him and relive that a little bit. Okay, small sidetrack. What I did do on that weekend, the April Fool's weekend, was I introduced my 4-year-old son Ren to the concept of role-playing games.
Let's go. That's big.
So I basically had a picture of something from when I teach Lord Dracula Man, and I try to get him to sort of he like stole his ice cream. He kidnapped someone, so he had to fight against Lord Dracula Man. But he kept punching the picture, and I was like, no, use the dice. Like, no, it's a game. Use the dice. Don't just punch the picture of the vampire.
Yeah, but that's far more direct. It's really far more effective.
It is. But he was starting to get it. So Zopia suggested that maybe that every child uses imaginary friends. In a way that's what their fae could be, the Tillith Twig, right? They can be or the Bwbach too.
I agree. I mean, just like as a way things go, we're not so used to it anymore. But back in the old days, people would ascribe things to gods, right? And I guess that everyone in Nirvana would ascribe children's imaginary friends to their Everchild for sure. That's just part of their tradition, right? Yeah, I agree.
Am I frozen?
Say again? Are you frozen?
Am I frozen?
Oh, maybe you are. Yeah. One second.
I didn't have. Sorry, guys. I didn't have a stroke.
Yeah.
Just...
Let me check on you.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, what's it? Yeah, join again. 1 second. Technical difficulties. Let me try again. There you are. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. This is the tricky part of streaming across the ocean.
Well, the Everchild is clearly interfering. They don't want us to expose their.
Well, we're like mirror islands, right? You're in the UK, and then Japan. They're like mirrored islands on the other sides of the globe.
Okay, sorry, another Japan aside. But I used to find it so fascinating. When I was teaching there, I would talk to my students, and I used to think there were such strong similarities between the UK and Japan. And I would say to my students, don't you think the UK and Japan are similar? And they'd look at me dumbfounded. And then I'd say, well, we're both island nations, small island nations off the coasts of a larger continent that then sees themselves to be quite separate and different from that large continent, despite the fact we probably aren't that much different. We both love cues. We both have a strong emphasis on like politeness and culture. We both still have a royal family. And they just looked at me like, no, don't be stupid. I was like, okay, fine, I guess I'm wrong.
I think it's 100% true. I think the environmental factors, obviously they're different in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But some of those environmental factors lead to those things, right?
I think so, yeah.
It's kind of like that book we were talking about, Guns, Germs, and Steel, where your environment affects your societal development. And also that book that I read that you recommended me for that podcast, was it The Mind in Motion?
Oh,
and
yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, and the thesis being that cognition, what do you call it? Abstract cognition is based on spatial cognition. And I think we underestimate how much our physical environment and surroundings affect our mental cognition, right? And I think growing up in an island nation, of course you're going to line up the cues because you're all fucking jammed together, so you have to like... But like in America or China, it's like wider, more space. People like have to like vie for things, and so they're a bit ruder about it. So that's my
maybe.
take on it.
All right, so I guess we don't know who worshipped the Everchild in like everyday Avallen. We've got merchants, inventors, children, entertainers, rogues. I think that's a pretty wide gamut. Now, why would adventurers worship the Everchild? Now, obviously we've got rogues down here. That's a big reason. There are the tricksy adventurers, and I guess spellcasters, right? So illusionists, right? Illusionists,
sure.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to go back. Let me look at some of the classes. So I mean, bards are so obviously Fili would be entertainers.
Yeah.
I think the sort of I think that perhaps the slayers roles that they take in society, where they kind of have this, they can have this kind of two-faced perception of them, right? Like they're both sort of, they can be protectors and hunters, but they're also like, they have to do it in secret, and they're assassins and they do subterfuge and so on. So I could see a slayer looking to the Everchild for guidance to sort of both hide them and to give them the strengths when they reveal themselves, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So this kind of...
It's interesting because my instinct was like, no, I'd say the Slayers kind of worship the Everfather for strength and the Ever Elder for secrets about their foes, right? But there's no reason to describe one or even just two gods to a class, right? That's why it's a pantheon. There's different reasons to worship each god, right? Exactly.
Yeah. A Slayer would worship the Everchild for this reason, but they might worship, the Evermother or the Ever Elder for different reasons too, depending on the personality type.
Yeah. But you're right. So the Slayer obviously is part Reaver, which is our kind of rogue equivalent, right? The warriors that have prowess through subterfuge and gaining advantages over your enemy, as opposed to strengthen your own prowess. So probably any legendary path that follows from the Reaver, like the Fate-Touched, like the Slayer, I forget the others. Gladiator. Well, gladiators are performers, right?
Yeah, gladiator's pretty obvious, right? Like, I could see, like, I think it'd be really interesting for Araxian to come over to Avallen and be like, "Oh, a child," but then they kind of see what they're about, and like, it's almost like the Legend of the Everchild is a representation of a really interesting strength of like overcoming great odds,
Yeah,
which when
yeah.
you're locked in single combat is something you really fucking want. Obviously, the Everfather is an obvious choice as well.
Yes.
But yeah, I could see the Everchild being very attractive to any of the Reavers classes.
Okay, cool. I'm happy with that. Let me put down Reavers, Rogue/Reavers.
But of course, leaving it open, right? Like if you want to be a mystic or you want to be a warrior or that worships the Everchild because it works for your roleplay, then I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's different reasons, right? There's illusionists, like we said, but then if you're into like the future and inventions and things like that, then that's another reason too. So it's not just about what you do, but also about your personality as well, isn't it? They can become.
I guess that's the thing. I mean, one way we could approach it too is because we do have our classes. Here, you could do some section like, why would a Reaver worship the Everchild, or why would a mystic worship the Everchild, right? That's also an option in terms of how we flesh it out.
It's last year. Worship the Everchild. Yeah, that's a good point. We should include that for sure. Okay, I think I kind of want to move on now to the Everchild and the goals. So what would a worshipper of the Everchild kind of want to align themselves with? I do have a section later on. We'll talk about gaining favour with the Everchild, but first I think we should establish what the Everchild, or at least what people who worship the Everchild think the Everchild wants.
Sure. Yeah, because that could be very different, right?
Yeah.
I think
sorry to interrupt one more time, but to be clear, we're going to have another section which is just for the game masters, where we delve into some of the secrets, and maybe there we might tell you what the Everchild really wants, but that's not what this topic is about. This is what people think the Everchild wants inside.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Got it. So, well, I have some ideas, but do you have anything you want to?
No, I'm actually kind of blank on this one. Like, obviously, we talked about the domains, so potential inventions, the future, children, tricks, games, fun, playfulness, but what they want? No, I haven't really thought about it.
So there again, because it's two-sided, and I know there's a cop-out. It's not a cop-out, but rather, I think it can be really complex, right? Because on one hand, the Everchild is a child, and so they'll like child things, but on the other hand, they're a god and they've been a child forever. A character that kind of comes to mind is, have you ever seen the movie or read the book Interview with a Vampire?
No, I've read about it. Is that the one with Brad Pitt? Is that?
Yeah, one with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. And there's a character.
That's right. Yeah, I've seen clips. I haven't watched the whole thing, I don't think, unless I was really young and don't remember. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, you would have been really young, and I'm a grog nerd, so of course I've seen it. But there's a character played by what's her face? The girl who plays Mary Jane in the original Spider-Man movie, which is also like 24 years old now. Anyway, she dies. She's dying from disease.
Spoilers, dude! Oh my god. You're gone.
Well, you just okay. Well, sorry. Okay, well, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Interview with a Vampire from 1996 or whatever year it came out. So there's a character. She's a girl, and the main character Brad Pitt. He like basically feels pity for her, and Tom Cruise is like, "Don't do that shit. You're gonna fucking regret this." And he turns into a vampire, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes like her daughter figure. But as they travel together, she basically becomes like fucking. It's like 50 years later, and she's like a 7-year-old woman in like a 10-year-old's body.
Oh, of course.
Right?
Yeah, because she's young. Yeah, I was thinking of Mary Jane from Spider-Man, but no, this is like 10 years before that.
Yeah, she was like 11 or God damn, what's her name? See, I'm gonna say Mary Jane from original Spider-Man movie.
Chat, what's her name? Do we know?
Kirsten Dunst.
Is that her name? Yeah, that is her name. Is that her name? That is her name.
Yeah, Kirsten Dunst. Yeah, it's very Hollywood. Instead of Kristen, they're like, no. You're gonna be Kirsten.
Okay. Yeah, anyway, so she's a child and she's a vampire. Has been alive for 70 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's complex, right? She wears like she can't age. She's frustrated with it, right? Because she's undead, and she's in love with her with her guardian now, Brad Pitt, because they've been together forever. But she's a fucking child. She's like 11.
Yeah.
And so I think for the Everchild, I see this similar kind of thing where one, it's interesting, exciting because they can live forever and they're powerful and they can do and fulfill a lot of their wishes. On the other hand, it's frustrating because they never got to sort of actually see their potential. Like they never became.
They never got to actualize the potential, or never gets to. Yeah.
So I think so from the point of view, by being with children, you want to sort of inculcate them with this idea of being the best, of excelling as a child, right, to achieve your potential. And as an adult, when you achieve your potential, that's a thing to be honored because you're doing what the Everchild wanted to do or would do, right? It's not like an Arrested Development. Like the Everchild's in Arrested Development, but I could easily see it being that there's two sides to it. Of one, yeah, you like childish and playful things, but on the other hand, you want to see the best achieving your full potential. And I think it's a very pro gamer mindset to have, right? When you as a gamer, as gamers, games and so on are like things of children, but they're also something that teaches a lot about ourselves. And I guess to summarize, that's how I view it. Those are the two sides of it. One is enjoying the things that you love and being honest about it and sincere. But the flip side of that is either doing your best to achieve your potential, and if you don't achieve your potential, that's something that is dreaded as a pen Cawr or someone who works at the pen Cawr, right? That's why the merchant is trying to be the best and richest merchant they can be. And so when they don't when they aren't successful, it hurts even more for that reason. Right? You feel like you're not the most successful, whatever you can be. When you're not the best bard you can be, when you're not the best so-and-so, if you fall short, you're almost unforgiving about it. Like the pen Cawr are the most depressed of all the of all the valid.
Yeah. Which is obviously ironic because they're probably the most prosperous, right?
Sure, yeah. And because again, that's a two-sided thing, right?
Yeah.
Because how much is enough? That's another child thing, right? Like it's hard to set the limits on that. It's hard to self-regulate once you have that mindset, and that can be difficult.
Okay, now I feel like we're like stepping into the Everchild's diary. Like I've written down here, enjoying the things you love, being innocent, pure about it, wants to actualize their potential but never gets to, frustrated. Other ones look down on them, right?
Maybe,
and constantly underestimated, which is sometimes a good thing, but can be tiresome. Right?
Sure.
Because obviously it's great to be underestimated if you're trying to trick people, but
I think that could be. I think that could be a rationale too for why they love the Raxian Empire, right? Because the Valak just kind of stay on their island, but all of a sudden they've come in contact with this other culture that's like, no, we're trying to go everywhere and conquer everything. And then the Everchild is like, that's a great idea. Why didn't we think about that first?
So then what do people think the Everchild wants then? Like, what drives the Everchild? What are they seeking? What should a person devoted to the Everchild think the Everchild wants the world to look like? That's a good way there. What does the Everchild want the world to look like? Yeah.
I think so. Again, going back to the the Sochi, the ones that are willing, and the Dishi, whatever it was called. I can't see.
Growth.
They look at it in different ways, but they're the Dishi.
Yeah.
So the ones who are resistant to the Raxians, I think the Dishi point of view is bide our time. The Everchild is biding their time and learning all they can until they can supplant the Raxians one day with a great Valak empire.
Yeah.
I think that's the sort of copium that they drink. Yeah. Right? We're learning from them until we can become them, kind of thing. And the Soki, however you pronounce it, point of view, ones who embraced it with open arms, is that the Everchild admires what it's seeing in the progress, and so it just wants to play and collaborate with this new culture and reforge what it means to be Valak with these new elements.
Cool. Yeah, I love
it. So one is sort of, how do you say, what do you call it when you incorporate something? I'm a writer. I should know this
I
word.
mean, there's loads of words. There's subsume. There's
Incorporative. One is incorporative,
mhm.
to incorporate. It wants to incorporate these elements, and the other one is almost empirical, where they want to take it, but then utilize it somehow to sort of dominate.
Yeah.
And I could see those being 2 points of view doing towards the same thing.
Yeah.
So Zilpha is feeling like a failure. Yeah, that's the thing we talked about. And growth. Yeah, so growth and intelligence. So definitely these are the growth and intelligence would definitely be in the Everchild's goals too, right? Growth for their people, which I mean we mentioned in the book too, though, that because of the waning worship, it's having this other effect of like so in the adventure the other world is shrinking a little bit, right? Because the sort of faithful population is starting to reduce for the Cawr a little bit.
Let's touch that slightly. So there's obviously our world, the magics and gods in our world somewhat rely on belief. Belief emboldens and strengthens them, makes them stronger. And obviously the Raxians have a different belief system. Particularly they're kind of atheists in a way. They worship their emperors, their empresses, and practice a type of meditation transcendence called ataraxia, which is their namesake. It's a real thing, by the way. You can look it up. Check out ataraxia. It's an old Roman philosophy. Anyway, so because of the Cawr's relationship with the Raxians, some of them are losing the faith or worshipping the Everones less. And it seems that the Everchild is kind of okay with that. A lot of the druids are asking, them to step in and like enforce the old ways, and why aren't you fighting for your worship and that kind of thing, and they're not doing anything about it. And as a result, the domain must be shrinking or losing power. The Bwbach, which is their fae, we haven't even talked about the Bwbach yet, but the Bwbach, which is the Everchild's fae, are losing their homes or kind of becoming refugees of the other world in a way, and the Everchild's not doing anything that we know of. Why is that? I guess that might be a secret to answer in the GM section, but that's something that the people will be wondering, I think. Yeah.
The other thing is because of I think it's also strongly implied. Sorry, also I put those 2 words that you have in your document, Sokchi and Dedesiti, to look up later.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, which comes from Celts in the Classical World by David Rankin, a pretty good book about how the Greeks and Romans looked at Celtic people. Because part of the issue is like the Everpact. They know because of the Everpact and that the Divine Brandel, that the Everones can't like interfere with mortal affairs so easily, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you feel strongly that people feel the Everchild isn't doing anything, or is it just like, well?
I think it's that the Pen Baedd and the Pen Draig and the Pen Levy clearly formed a resistance to keep their ways, to keep their lands, to keep the people and culture going. Whereas the Pen Cawr, I mean, if the Everchild is not supposed to intervene, but they can pass their message through the druids and the priests and tell them to resist if they wanted to, but they haven't. They've just let it happen, right? And their worship is shrinking. So some that worship them would wonder, well, why aren't you encouraging us to proselytize and to keep the faith alive, to keep our traditions alive? And obviously part of it is about the growth, and some Cawr are adopting it instead. But does adopting this new thing mean we have to forget the old things as well? And they're staying silent on it as far as we can tell.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, quick comment. So Zilphia says that their players have a trading deal with him.
With the Bwbach? Yeah.
The Bwbach, like, they would be the most mercantile of the
fae. Yeah, exactly. Should we talk about the Bwbach for a moment then? Should we just
sure. We'll come back to this idea of the overworld shrinking, because it is a plot point in Standing Stone that the Bwbach are looking for other places, find opportunities.
But
so,
I think
I
feel like we've mostly covered now the Everchild's goals, which is my objective. I put down growth, freedom, and play as like ideals to like head towards. and then we've put down like bide their time to learn from Raxians, grow and overcome them, or admire the Raxians, want to play and reforge what it means to be Varlic. There are two different perspectives that devotees of the Everchilds might have. On the Raxian topic, we could also talk about the like another topic for the devotees. But I like the idea of growth, freedom, and play being like things to strive towards. Yeah.
And growth is a growth is an interesting word, right? Because it's like bittersweet, I imagine, for the Everchild's domain. Again, like we mentioned before, they want to grow, but they can't grow.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier because it reminded me of being a teacher again in Japan. I was only there for 2 years, but even then, you had this strict sense of feeling of like, when I arrived, I was 22, and some of my students were 17, 18, and I was only 4 years senior then, right? So we actually kind of felt somewhat close. But then by the time I left, I was then 24 or 25, and they were still 18, right? The students are still 18, and you get this gap growing forever because the students, they come and go, but it's still the same age group. Whereas for the Everchild, it's the other way around. Like, they're forever a child, and they're constantly seeing their peers growing up, right? Like, children that worship them are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then they kind of grow out of the Everchild, like Santa Claus, right? Yeah. And they choose a different god to worship instead.
They can, sure.
Yeah, they can, yeah.
Yeah, so there's this kind of and that kind of parallels the sort of conflict with the Otherworld, right? On one hand, they worship growth, and there's more people in the land of the Cawr than ever because the Raxians are coming in.
Yeah.
But the worship is waning because they're growing out of it. And is the Everchild just like, well, that's just how it has to be for now, right? Like, because, but it could be part of their carefree nature to worry about that a little bit less, right? Yeah. But they are clever. Like, my impression of the Everchild, and this might be something to say for the Game Master's Guide, and I have an idea here that I won't say on. I'm hesitant to say on stream.
Oh, go on then. There's like 5 people here. There'll be 20 people on the YouTube video. Your secret's safe with us.
Okay. Well, I think it'd be really fun if the Everchild's overall scheme is they know about the Exilium now, and their goal is to basically subsume the Raxian worship eventually, and to basically take over that domain. So they're like across the sea, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're right, though, because it goes both ways, right? If the Cawr and the way that they see the world is informed by the Everchild, and that way of seeing the world is most similar to the Raxians, such that they would gain Raxian culture in them, it can go both ways, right? It means that the Raxians are probably most susceptible to worshipping the Everchild as well, because they are just merchants and inventors and that kind of thing. Yeah.
I think the Everchild is biding their time, and their ultimate goal is to basically solidify a power base with the Raxian Valak hybrid, and take their people back over the seas and make themselves have their people. Because here's the thing: the Everpact only applies to Avallen, right?
Yeah.
The Everchild knows that.
Oh, that's some deep lore. Yeah, I didn't even consider that.
That's right. I'm getting to deep lore. The Everchild knows that the Everpact applies to Avallen. It doesn't apply to Ataraxia. So spoiler alert. This is the Everchild's overarching plan. Is that they want to take in the Raxians, learn their ways, use their technology, use their power, and then eventually strike back.
So I've twisted it slightly. I wrote down the Everchild wants to be adopted by the Raxians.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. Be adopted by the Raxians and to be a godchild for eternity of the Raxian Empire. Because how badass would that be? If I were the Everchild, that'd be the best. Yeah. So Zilthus says use and convert. Yeah.
And or use and convert. Yeah, that's good. And to add fuel to this fire, like the Raxians aren't strangers to putting children in charge. The current empresses of Ataraxia were put into the position of power when they were like 7, 8 years old, and custody of the empire was handed over to the Senate, right? So as opposed to I don't think the Varlic would ever do that. I think they'd always have someone quote strong, someone who can hold their own in a fight in power, which makes the Everchild so unique, I think.
Yeah. And so you've heard it here first.
Yeah.
If the Valak build their boats and make their way to the Rexian Empire to sack Ataraxia, the pen Cawr will be the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're saying they're perfect prey. They're extra, great. They're coming in. So that might be some deep lore stuff. So if
cool.
hopefully your game master is here. But what do you think about that? Like, because this is something that I've been mulling over too. So to me it makes sense, but I don't know. What do you think of that?
I think the idea of them wanting to like conquer people and like do that sounds a bit alien to me for the other child. I don't think they'd have.
Well, no, it's not conquering.
Exactly, that's the thing. I think it depends on how you frame it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not conquering. It's inviting them into their family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but when you say it like that, now I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, the Everchild would totally be about that. Yeah, it depends on the framing. But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, because War 2 has that two-faced nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when we go to war, it's both a terrible thing with people dying, but we're also heroic conquerors bringing a great way of life.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sylphia says, "Don't worry about sharing it with me. I am the game master." Yeah, exactly. We're all game masters here, right?
Yeah, I hope so. But hopefully through adventures and so on, you can share these plot points. I would love that to be a thing. Is the Everchild disappears from Avallen and just tries to be the fucking god emperor.
Disappears from Avallen, yeah. From Avallen for a bit, yeah. Okay, this is really cool deep lore stuff. We'll come to this another time from Avallen for a bit. But I'm writing it down so we don't forget. Okay, so we can move on to 2 different places now. We can either talk about the Bwbach, or we can talk about how one might gain favor with the Everchild and the courts and the Bwbach. So maybe we should talk about the Bwbach first, so that we can see how the people gain favor from the Bwbach and the Everchild.
I know you love the Bwbach. I feel like the Bwbach is one of your favorite of the bestiary period.
Yeah, I use them a lot. I'm a big Bwbach fan.
So tell us about your love for Bwbachs.
Well, it's kind of our own creation somewhat. I mean, the Bwbach is a real Welsh creature. It's kind of similar to like a brownie and a puka. And because they're all changelings, like most Fae are changelings in the stories, I wanted to settle on a look for them. And the puka are often like seen as like furry creatures that have animal forms that they can change into people and things like that. So we kind of made our own thing, and we chose a fox-like looking creature because foxes are associated with being devious, that kind of thing. And then we gave them wings to make them the traditional Fae type creature. And then and then this thing came to be. Okay, you've disappeared again. I guess you'll rejoin me in a second. That's fine. So yeah, we've got a. Oh yeah, you're here coming. Show on stream.
Yeah.
You good?
Am I here?
Yeah.
What did you hear me say last? Because I said something tricky and then it tricked me out.
I was talking over you, so I heard nothing.
Okay, no. I was just saying that foxes are tricky in both British culture and Japanese culture. Another parallel.
Yeah, exactly. True. Anyway, so this is our Bwbach. They're beautiful, cute little things, and that's part of them as well. It's supposed to be cute and fuzzy. They're like childlike teddy bears in a way. You'd want to give them a hug, which is very. And how could you not want to help this little guy, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they're wonderful little creatures, and they're perfect to be turned into a plushie someday.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless you want to, I don't know. We can make that a a stretch goal.
Yeah. So what are the Bwbach? The Bwbach are, I mean, the Fae are tricky in their own right, but usually because people don't understand them, or because they're using the guile to outwit you or overwhelm you. But the Fae themselves love tricks in and of itself, not for not to fulfill a purpose or to get a goal, but just for its own sake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sylphia wants plushies. Yeah. It's on the list. Once we find a place that can make them, I think it'll probably happen on Kickstarter. I'm kind of keen. Bwbach
Yeah.
plushie would be great.
You mean the next Kickstarter? Let's go on the next Kickstarter.
Yeah. Like I said, if we can find a place, we'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That'll be a lot of fun. I'm super into that idea.
Yeah.
Well, now I'll look into the dictionary about Bwbach. See what they have.
The Bwbach are also unique as well in that they have the most, or they used to have the most direct relationship with people. There's a lot of tales in Britain, Welsh, English mythology of fae that care for the home at night. Like you'd leave out milk and cheese and things like that, and they would come into your home and do chores for you, basically. They'd help tidy up and care for your place and keep pests and demons and that sort of thing away.
Right.
But if you'd ever do something that would insult them or kind of not take any of their tricks in good faith and joyously, then they would turn against you and haunt you and make your life a living misery with constant pranks and that kind of thing. So we kind of have that same lore in Avallen, where the Bwbach can be found helping out Cawr at homesteads, caring for the place and that kind of thing in exchange for food and gifts. Although that's being practiced less and less now, again, because of the Raxian influence, shunning creatures from the other world. Yeah.
Now, some folk, according to my Encyclopedia of Celtic Mythology,
Yes.
some folklorists and storytellers distinguish between the helpful Bwbach, Buca Gwydyn, and the evil Buca Du.
Yeah.
But we don't really distinguish.
Oh, that would be
between
Buca D.
Buca D. Oh, sorry, Buca D.
And D means black, so I'm guessing that means like dark Buca. You know.
Yeah. Do we have? Do you imagine us introducing a dark Buca at any?
Well, 100%. So like where's our? Let me go to our bestiary because it's here. Give me 1 second. Bestiary here. All of the original depictions we have of the Fae are two-sided, right? They all have a benevolent side and a malevolent side. So the Bwbach definitely follow that tradition. I don't know if it would be a particular Fae is evil. It would be a Fae can be good or can be evil, and the people would call that a bad Bwbach, but it's not necessarily a bad Bwbach. It's just been a bad Bwbach to them, or they don't quite appreciate what's going on and they think it's a bad Bwbach. So yeah, maybe the Cawr, the Cawr have different names for them, but really they're not two different types of Bwbach. They're the same type. It just depends on how they're manifesting at that time. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Sure. Yeah, just whether I get on their bad side.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, cool. So in terms of the Bwbach, so we've already used the Bwbach in a few things, right? They were in Standing Stone. They were also in. They're in Fairy Queen, right? Were they in Fairy Queen?
Yeah. There's a major character that's a Bwbach in the Fairy Queen.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if we run a Bwbach, I mean, whatever, well, they will never go away because they're so huge and common. And also, Zilphia has a trade deal with them, so their players have a trade deal going with them.
Yeah.
So how do you
actually? Sorry, I want to show off a little bit. So in the Fairy Queen, this is not really that spoilers, but there's a scene where the Fairy Queen, the players can see things through the Bwbach friend. The Bwbach kind of acts as a spy for them, and there's a scene where the Fairy Queen talks to the Bwbach, not to the Bwbach itself, but to the people that are watching through the Bwbach, as it were. And she uses the word they. And it's meant to be that the players think that it's talking to them because they are a party, but really she's talking to the Everchild, who is also they, them, obviously.
Right. Yeah, that's fun. So that's some heavy plot threading. But when we're talking about the Bwbach in the context of this book, I guess we'll be getting to the fairy courts and so on a little bit on behind the scenes. So is that what you want to chat about? Like what you imagine that looks like?
I guess it's more what would a devotee of the Everchild think of the Bwbach and what would they know about them, that kind of thing. How would they see them? Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I imagine that the Bwbach too. Yeah, they're the ones that the humans have the most sort of connection with. But their role would also be mirrored in the domain of the Everchild's fairy court, right?
Yeah.
Uh, at least that's my impression. So for some more devout and more faithful Cawr, they see a Bwbach sort of helping them with their household as a high honor.
Yeah.
In a way, it can be a high honor because these are the same creatures that also are in service to the Everchild and to her fairy host, right?
Yeah.
Their fairy host. But do you agree with that interpretation?
Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
I think that there'd also be like what does a Everchild devotee imagine the Fae Court looks like? And I think of it as like a constant like festival of games and one-upmanship in a way. Like you're constantly trying to prove yourself to someone else, but not in a strength way, but in a guile way. Like people are, it's like
Sure.
it's a magic tournament forever. It's like
yeah, exactly. So because part of the thing is like if when you die and you're faithful, you go to someone's to your everyone's domain when you die. You obviously imagine being, if it's like your version of heaven, it's something attractive. And so that sounds fun, right? That's like the child's like, oh, I'm a child at heart type thing. Like you get to go there and do plays and music and play dice until the end of time with the fairy host. And commerce. So that's the funny thing, right? Like commerce is a thing in our world and in the mortal realm. Is commerce a thing in the fairy realm?
It has to be. I just imagine that like the highest ranking of Fae, the Taldweth Taig for the Everchild, are the ones that can gain, trick, earn, and trade their way to some kind of status point. Like they have to be the ones that are most honored in those kind of fields, right? And I don't know if that means it's a contest that happens or if they I don't know what does it, but it has to be something
there's some kind of scarcity in the other world still, right?
Yes.
It's both, it is magical and it's a domain that can, the perception of which can be nearly boundless.
But it's not infinite.
But
exactly.
But it's not like heaven, right? It's not like, oh, we're gonna have some chicken. Oh, look, I have chicken. Like there's still this implication of some kind of, if it's not physical material scarcity, it's a kind of spiritual belief.
Yeah, but let's just say resources still matter, right? Resources still matter.
Yeah. They're bountiful in their own way. Fairies don't necessarily have to eat, but they still sort of, they're not like a the Christian view of what a heaven would be like.
Yeah.
Right. There's reasons that they come to the
like part of the law is that you can't, I don't know if you can't forge metals or ore is not found in the other world, basically. And so
but they're weapons and the faith that still exists in the other world. That's kind of part of the everyone's duty, right?
Yeah.
So even though they protect their so we described the hillocks as being on castles of on hillocks and with weird physics and so on, and the Fae, the Taldweth Taig, are still on the lookout and do battle with the Cawr that are in their land and the creatures that are in their lands, right? So part of the commerce too is to, weapons are still a thing, and forging weapons and metal is not something that's found easily or ever in Unwin in the other world.
We actually have a section that describes and names an Everchild's fortress in the book. There's the Legend of Caladvolk.
I remember that. What page is that?
It's on page 149, at the bottom of it. We say that Cawr Golid is a house full of treasures and games to win them with, home to the epicene swindlers of the Everchild.
Ooh, yeah. Who wrote that? Did I write that?
I wrote that. In fact, I say stole it. I was inspired by a passage from the Welsh bard Taliesin, who, in a a quest that Arthur goes on, he goes into the other world, and he essentially loots 7 different fortresses inside the other world. They each have a different name. Um,
Mm.
and I think I took the names from there, including some of the descriptions, as it being a house full of treasures or a fortress of glass. And then I assigned them to our different Everones and described the Fae that were inside them, so to link it into our world lore. I then tied it into the Lord of Khaled Volk. So yes, I wrote it inspired by a passage from Taliesin. Yeah.
Sure. No, but something seemed like Cara Witter, the Fortress of Glass.
Yeah.
That seems familiar to me. Well, anyway, and the Red Book of Guiredale. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's weird because it like we wrote this stuff 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this sounds familiar, like a thing that I maybe we just like co-wrote it. I don't know.
No,
it's
you
weird.
did. It was all me. I know that for sure.
What really?
Yeah.
You even call it the Red Book of Guiredale?
Oh no, maybe not that part. I'm talking about the quotes itself.
Okay. Well, I'm not trying to do any stolen valor. I'm just saying like some of that stuff sounds very, very familiar. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's cool. It just means our heads in
Yeah,
the same space.
Yeah. Well, in any case, it's yeah. So if you're could we like for example, could we actually in the Sourcebook, could we actually map out what Cawr Galud looks like? Like, is that a thing that we're interested in doing, or is that something that's like outside our
Well, I
scope?
mean, we said that it's non-Euclidean, right? So that's going to be really difficult anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Even if we did, yeah.
But that's what makes it fun. Like, it doesn't always look like this. Is that I don't know? We might not have space for it either. That's the tricky part. But that sounds like something.
Okay, yeah, but we'll put a pin in that. We're definitely going to consider it to see. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like I think for the game master, the other world is like a really weird place. So if we could do things where we can show what these weird spaces kind of look like.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You're right. Like, it's a place that you've adventures to take place in, and it's the most difficult place to do it. So we should give the most assistance there, right?
Yeah, and it would also fire up the imagination of the kind of things that you could find in the other world and what that would look like the castle map of like it'd be funny if like, oh, this is the first floor and here's the second floor and it's just like way bigger for some fucking reason. Like even though it looks like a pyramid or it doesn't have that shape. Shit like that's quite fun.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so we've got the Bwbach. We said the tricky, the home carers. There's some dark evil ones. The fey courts prioritize games, gambling, tricks, fun, and trade. Is there anything else we need to say from the player's perspective or the worshipper's perspective? I don't think so, right?
I think we can be a bit more specific about what specifically how the Tilith Teg manifest themselves, like the character of the Tilith Teg, right? Because I don't imagine that they'll look the same for everyone, and they will have their own way of dressing and appearance. I think.
Okay, so first, Zilfia in the chat says, could have someone write down what they saw when they visited the Everchild's domain, and then it would throw others for a loop when they visit, and it's completely different.
Yeah, that'd be good if we put in the player's guide that looks one way, and then in the Dungeon Master's guide is like, oh, by the way, it never looks the same.
Yeah.
So I mess with it and make it different. Yeah, 100%. I think that's a fun idea.
Yeah, I like that.
So I have it.
Yeah, go on.
So I have it in my mind that the Tilith Teg, they're very much what Avallen, and they're like a rare form of elves, right? They're like elves that haven't come back from the Havens or something.
Yeah.
And so they have their own.
Do you want me to tell you what the current canon is for the Tilith Teg? And
yes.
There's not much. So first of all, the one that Chrissy illustrated, that's in the books on page 162, that is a Tilith Teg of the Everchild. And the Tilith Teg are good because we wanted the Fae to be different between each gods. I kind of constrained the changeling aspect of the Fae and said that not all Fae are changeling, because otherwise then they could take any form at any time. Then what does it look like, Sure. And I said instead it's the most powerful Fae, the most honoured Fae of the Everone are the changelings, and they are the Tilith Teg, which is the fair families. They're like the leaders of the Everone's Fae Court. And so because they can take any form, they often take a form that they think is the most beautiful or the most honorable, the one that embodies their traditions and culture and motivations possible, I think. So that's why I have them written at the moment. They often take the form of people that are beautiful or extreme in a certain way. So like the Penlevi Telwyth Teg are like rotund because food is so scarce where they're from. They're usually the biggest. Whereas the Pendraic ones, the Everfather, they are the strongest. They're like chiseled champion warriors, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And so the Ever Child's ones are obviously the ones that are most able to trick, persuade, and beat you in games of fun and that kind of thing. So they're often like the roguish, daring, tricksy kind of looking people. But yeah, you're right. Fundamentally, the Telwyth Teg look like elves. They're like idealistic visions of beauty, of different kind of beautiful aspects. Yeah, that's what they're at the moment. But we haven't really written much about them at all. So that's definitely a spot that we could delve into with the source book. So give me your ideas, Kurt.
Well, I mean, I take inspiration a little bit from the Shakespearean view of like the fairy courts, right? Like, and obviously that's like post, that's like Spencerian views of the fairy queen, and or post, medieval or post medieval views of it. But I do think that's a fun image and a fun thing to play around with, as a game master, and also as the possibility of like, well, if as we develop these ecologies, that opens up possibilities for just, and this is the game master game development hat going on. The more sort of understandable they are as like royal courts, the more likely we are to let players be them as characters and go on adventures with them, right? And I think that's a really interesting potential place to play around in, right? Allowing players to become Tilith Teg in a different version of Avallen and be part of the fairy court. But I don't know if that's something that's ever crossed your mind. Has it crossed your mind?
That's so interesting. Yeah, I get this a lot as well, which means obviously there's a big demand for it. Like people want to play Fae, they want to be that. And for me, when I started working on Avallen, it was most important to me that the world was mystical and wonderful, because it was all about this idea of legends from humble origins. Like you start as a regular person who then explores the world and then becomes a legend. And so for you to explore the world, and for things to be wondrous and strange, things have to be alien. They have to be distant, and you have to uncover them. So if you could just play as a Fae to begin with, well then there's no meeting of the Fae for the first time and figuring out how they work and that kind of thing. So I deliberately avoided all of that on purpose. But in the future, like, I don't know, if we're still going in 5 years' time and things are established and everything, and it's like, yeah, okay, why not have a campaign book where you play as the Fae, you know? Like,
I actively think it's a fun thing, but it is specifically a different version of... It's a different game from playing Legends of Avallen as a hero. In that version, you start at like legendary path level or whatever if you're going to start as Tilith Teg, and you go on different kinds of adventures, right? Then or messing with mortals or whatever. You're creating a different kind of legend, but you're doing it from the point of view of the Fae. So, and I think that's interesting and possible, but different from what's being covered here. It's like a parallel thing to Legends of Avallen, right? Like that book is like the Fae course of Avallen, and then you create the cards, and then this is how you play a noble fairy campaign in the other
I
book.
mean, it would be awesome. The way you're talking about it now makes me excited for it. So maybe that's the book after the source book.
No. We got other things after that, but
no, I mean the next Avallen book, whenever that is.
Oh, sure. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And so I'll make sure I'm on the train of thought. So one thing I want to clarify with you too is there's also this implication that when you die, the spirits of the Fae and fairies were once mortal, right? Or some were once mortal. So
all of them,
So when you die, do you become a Bwbach?
Some people do, yeah.
Okay.
So the canon is at the moment that those chosen by the Ever Child, the spirits are reshaped into Bwbach.
Okay, and what if you're not specifically chosen by Everchild? What if you just die, but you weren't a bad person? Do you does anyone maintain their human form when they die and become a spirit and
No,
to the
I
other
don't
one?
think so. I
Okay,
think
good.
that the other one is too chaotic to keep that. Instead, if you're not shaped by an ever one, then your soul is kind of left to fend for itself and do its own thing. And sometimes that becomes something awful, and other times it becomes quite benign and you just float around. Yeah.
And you just have the vaguest memory of your previous life.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but so you have the different fairy in the court of the Twilith Tig,
Yeah.
and that can mean different things. Does that mean that a Bwbach can sort of reshape themselves into a Twilith Tig eventually?
Well, yeah, yeah. So the
That's the
telepath
goal, right?
of
That's what
the
happens.
Everchild are the highest echelon of Bwbach. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like this stratification. So the Bwbach are the commoners. And that's what most people are.
Yeah.
But eventually they do something great. So an adventure thread could be like a Bwbach who really wants to become a Twilith Tig, and the mortals can like help that Twilith Tig achieve its goals and reshape itself.
Yeah, that's true.
Earn everyone's attention and honor to join the higher fairy courts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're probably
I mean,
they're probably involved tricking another Telworth tape, right? Out of their position. Yeah.
right. I mean, I can even imagine that if there's a whole similar to human society where you have your Brayers and your Brendan and all that, and your different layers, that each fairy court is also structured in a different way with different kinds of high level fae that take on different that can manifest in different ways. But I'm not ready to talk about that to talk about that on the stream.
Sure.
Develop that.
Yeah, I agree. Selphio says that sounds like a fun quest and story, and I agree as well, so I wrote it down so we don't forget. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the important thing is thinking about the logic of our world, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, these are the rules of our world, then logically there will be some.
Yeah. So you're right. So how does a Bwbach become a Telworth Tag of the Everchild's Court? Yeah. How does a Bwbach become one of the Everchild's Court? Yeah, exactly. And it probably involves
How does the spirit? Yeah. How does it? And here's the thing. I think you have to imply that being a Bwbach is pretty nice. It's cool. You're like a spirit, and you get to go hang out, and you still get to go in the mortal realm, and you get to be cute and all this stuff. So it's not like it's a punishment by any means if you were not like a
no, it's honor, and if you didn't think it was an honor, then you would be worshipping the Everchild, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. But that does mean too. That implies that you should never. Yeah, if you get in a Cawr, someone faithful to the Cawr would do whatever they can to not get in a fight with a Bwbach, right? Because that's like your ancestor.
Well, yes, but no, right? If you mean a fight, like a violent fight, probably.
Yeah.
But I think it's still okay to like.
Because they're still people,
with them, right?
Oh, sure, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. They could have been an asshole in their past.
Yeah. You can still outwit them. You can still trick them. You can still game with them. Try and beat them. I think that's all part of the tradition. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Like
but you're right though. Like so, for a counterexample, the Goblin of the Everfather, the Everfather is all about war and warriors' prowess. So they're very much they often raid humans for resources, and there it's totally fine to fight your ancestors and to kill goblins in defense because it just shows that your martial prowess, right? So it's a different tradition. Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, I guess there could be different views on that too, right? Like, oh, the really great Pendraig are in the Everfather's domain. They're Twilith Tig.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, that's something I still want to play around the idea of, and how our cosmology works. Like, you die, and then everyone becomes a goblin.
No, not everyone. Only those chosen by the Everfather. Yeah.
And then others become Twilith Tig and so on. It's an interesting cosmology, because you would think that some people, when they pass away, they maintain their human form. You would think, in some way.
No, why would you?
Well, that's a human thing. That's a human desire.
yeah, it's a desire, but don't most people become ghosts? Isn't that mostly what we think? Become like just not non because you lose your body, right? People think you lose your body and it's your spirit that goes on to the next world, right? So I don't think people really they think you retain your human form as a ghost because what else is there to be? But you're not physical, you're not corporal, right? You're raw essence.
Sure. Yeah. I think we just want different things when we die. That's all that is.
Yeah.
It's just well. In any case,
all right. Well, we got about 20 minutes left, so I kind of want to do the last thing really, which we haven't touched on yet, which is what should someone do to gain favor of the other child, or what do they think they should do to gain favor from the other child?
Get rich.
Get rich. Yeah, number one, get rich. Yeah.
Get rich. Make a music video on a boat.
Make a music video on a boat.
Be a popular Fortnite streamer.
Yeah.
Those are the things that you would do to impress a child who's always going to be a child for the rest of his life.
Yeah, if you appear on that TikTok stream, then they're impressed. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Mr. Beast is the highest of his service.
Yeah.
When he died. No. So, I think the average child is impressed by financial success. Could be.
But I'm thinking of more like events, like something you can point to. So like maybe scoring a success or a deal, right? Scoring a deal.
Oh, sure.
What would you say? Scoring a windfall. What would you call that? Like getting a bunch of money suddenly.
Oh, that would be receiving a windfall, or
but you have to earn it, right? It's not just receiving it.
Earning a windfall of riches, of treasures, of prosperity.
Yeah, scoring a windfall of riches. Yeah. Okay, so scoring a windfall of riches. Obviously, there has to be something about tricking people, right? Or like deceiving.
I'd say just tricking someone. There's no valor in just tricking someone and scamming them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a difference between scamming someone and doing something novel. And I could see like showing being like an innovator would definitely be something.
Well, first of all, like inventing something to begin with is something that probably every child would appreciate. Inventing something important or impactful. Deceiving someone in a novel way. Is that what you're saying, basically?
Yeah, deceiving someone in a tricky. It's like the Ocean's 11 heist thing, right? Yeah. There's like mean ways to pull one over the wolves over someone's eyes, and there's the clever, fun, admirable way, like you got me there kind of way.
Yeah.
And whatever that's called, that's what we want.
Yeah.
So,
got me. Yeah, even I have to admit you got me. That kind of thing.
Yeah. So whatever that is, that's what we'll have to articulate.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's not going to go in a book like that.
I have to say, like helping a child as well, or like helping children.
Sure, there's a certain amount of empathy about the ever child, where even if you're pulling something or pulling a fast one or whatever, you're still what do you call it? You're still able to service your society or service people who are lower than you and raise them up to. The person who comes to mind is like Aladdin. I think the ever child would love Aladdin from the Disney.
Yeah, I mean, he has a monkey as a friend, right?
Yeah,
so good,
helping you. Remember Aladdin, right? He's clever. He steals. He's fast. He's kind of rebellious, but once he gets a piece of bread, he shares it with the children who need it more than he does.
Yeah,
and he beats Jafar. Sorry, just referencing Disney's Aladdin as a point with ever child. He beats Disney's Jafar by tricking him with using his own words against him. That's like the sort of zenith of skill in the world of the ever child. That's what they want. They want to see that shit. They want to be entertained, and it's entertaining, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, entertaining. Be entertaining for the gods. That would be like, I don't think the ever mother necessarily appreciates a show, right? or the Ever Father either, but the Ever Child, they really appreciate a show. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Ever Father loves sports, and the Ever Child loves esports.
Yeah. Yeah. Ever Child. Yeah, that's really good. That's a good idea.
Right, like that's why the Ever Father, he has the Cawr games, but the Ever Child loves a good dice player or a good like I think the Ever Child is fascinated by new games and like the games that came over from Rexia, like the Royal game, the and dice games and stuff like that.
Yeah, games. Yeah, as opposed to sports.
Yeah, if you're the best at something, the best card player, the best dice player, whatever it is, I think you can earn the Ever Child's respect.
Yeah. So I also wrote down like helping children to grow, actualize, but that even includes tricks, right? You can still trick a child to teach them something, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you're being benevolent to them. You can just give them a good life lesson. Yeah.
We do it all the time. Parents do it all the time. Yeah, parents do it all the time.
Okay. I'm happy with the selections. This is just scoring a windfall of riches, inventing something impactful, deceiving someone in a novel way, helping children to grow, actualize, or be entertaining for the other child. Just like make the other child laugh, essentially. Make the other child laugh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Being recognized as that too. Yeah, the Ever Child loves jesters and comedians or satirists and so on.
All right, then we can cap it off with losing favor. What would someone do that would lose them grace in the eyes of the Ever Child?
Scamming people, dishonorable scamming, right? Like taking advantage of the weak.
Yeah. Dishonorable scamming. Yeah.
Dishonorable scamming.
Yeah, 1 second. You got me? Oh, thanks, bro.
I got you.
What do you? I feel like you're taking forever there.
Dishonorable. Sorry, that's dishonorable. Dishonorable. There it is.
You still got it wrong, dude.
Dishonorable scamming.
There we go.
Taking advantage of the weak.
Wait, is there a U in dishonorable in my way?
In British way,
yeah. Cool. I fixed it.
If it's British, it is dishonorable.
Okay, so here Zelfia says cheating. Now, I think cheating's okay, right? It just depends. Again, like if you're cheating the weak, then it's bad. If you're cheating the strong, then that's good.
I think. Like a Robin type thing.
Yeah, I think I know games are part of it, but I think it's okay. I think if you can trick your way ahead in a game with your peers, I think it's fine.
There's an argument to be made that cheating is counter to the idea of growth, right?
But how do you reconcile that with being a god of tricks and deceit?
It is dishonorable to cheat and get caught.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
you're getting caught. Getting caught.
Getting caught. Yeah, it's just getting caught, full stop. That's a way to lose favor. Exactly. That's how we distill that down.
Yeah, but there's this kind of what do you call it? So the best way to not get caught is to not cheat in the first place.
True.
But if you do, don't get caught.
Yeah. Don't cheat in the first place, right. But if you do, yeah.
I like the idea of causing harm to children is dishonorable for sure.
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
Punching down, punching down or abusing the weak is definitely not a good thing. What I will say too is that if you're gonna be, the best way to get away with cheating is also to have an honorable face, right? So that's very important too. Is in order to never get caught cheating, you always have to have the air of someone who never cheats. So that it's this kind of weird, ironic front back thing, right?
Yeah, it's a two-faced thing again. Yeah.
Cheating. Right. Yeah, being seen as a cheater is extremely looked down upon. But if you cheat and you're good at it, respect.
What is the anti-technology people? The Luddites? The Luddites?
Luddites.
Yeah, that would be. So how would we write that in Varlic terms?
You mean anti?
Doing something anti-tech, yeah.
So you'd be anti-progressive, you think, or anti?
But we have to distill it down to like an action as opposed to a philosophy, right?
Oh, sure.
Like, what would you do that would?
Like either hindering
Yeah.
hindering the
Hindering advancement, I guess, or like
something's advancement. Yeah.
hindering societal.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll write this out clearer another time. Societal / technological advancement.
Yeah, of course that can mean different things.
Yeah. So if gaining favor is scoring a windful of riches, then I guess losing favor would be losing a bunch, right?
Sure, like being or squandering your fortune or something.
I don't
Like
know. I
someone-
feel like squandering your fortune could be entertaining, right? It's more just.
Yeah.
Is it more just losing? Like, I mean, I don't think they would mind if you spent all your fortune on nonsense and it was hilarious and entertaining, and now you're in squalor and you have to earn your way back up the top again. But if you lost it, like if you were tricked, right? If it was taken from you, and you just lost it for no good reason, I guess that's squandering it for no good reason, right? Maybe squandering, squandering riches for no good reason.
Yeah, like fun is a good reason.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Now laziness. So Zilphia is suggesting laziness as a thing. So that's I think that's a tricky thing. Like, would the Everchild condemn laziness?
I kind of think so. They're all about actualizing potential, growth. They're so active and pushing forward and doing things. They're like hyperactive as well. I feel like they have this like two-faced, two-sided nature to them. They're doing this, doing that. Like it's all about doing. The act of not doing. It's very unchildlike, except when you're sleeping. Right?
I feel like the Everchild has very much current 2024 vibes of grind set culture. So, hey guys, Everchild here. I'm gonna tell you how to get 10,000 Everstones in just 1 month.
So how would we distill that down to like an action though? Just
being indolent.
What does indolent mean? I don't know that one.
Like indolence, like lazy.
Oh, okay. Like ignoring something, or
yeah, wanting to avoid activity.
Yeah. What about avoiding opportunities? What about that? There we go.
Avoiding opportunity. Okay, sure.
Avoiding opportunities. Avoiding chances. Yeah, avoiding because maybe like an opportunity or a chance is meant to be a gift from the Everchild, right? It's a chance to score something, to get it good. So if you stay inward and avoid those kind of opportunities, that would be losing favor with the Everchild.
So okay, sure. So being lazy and meek is not the Everchild's game.
Yeah, so I guess I put in favor like seizing opportunities as part of scoring a windful of riches, right? Seizing opportunities. Yeah. Cool, I like that. Okay, I think that there's a pretty solid list there.
Yeah, and we'll keep fleshing it out. But I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think the only thing now we really haven't covered is like enemies in the other world, like the Cawr and the Spriggan, but we've kind of talked about them in other streams, so that's okay. And then the last thing is relationships with the other gods or other things, like the Everchild.
Sure.
And the worshippers maybe with other worshippers. Which I guess we could touch on the last 5 minutes, or we could finish early, or we could wrap up. What do you think?
It's up to you. I'm starting to hit my wall. So Zilpha saying, what are we talking about next week? So they can plan out some ideas. We can talk about that.
Yeah, let's do that, because I don't know. What do you want us to talk about?
Well, so the goal of this stream is we're developing, basically before the Kickstarter starts, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Darren, we're going to develop one section from each of the main sections of the book, and those are going to go to a polished looking PDF to show like what we're making for people. And they can look at it and get some out of it. So far we covered like items. So far we covered monsters. So far we covered a clan, the Pen Levy. So far we covered a domain, the Everchild.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go back to our plan, our draft of the contents. Let's see what's not been covered yet. Here we go. Yeah, that's introductory. Okay, here we go. With different cultures. So yeah, we did a pen we did an Avallen culture. I guess we could tackle Araxian, but that's kind of a different. That's the same section though, so that's not necessary.
Yeah.
Professions. That's just game rules, which maybe we could design a new profession on stream. That could be fun. We could do some actual game design.
Well, sailor. We did a sailor. That'd be fun.
Yeah, maybe we should do that. We've just done devotion for the Everchild. And then there's the GM side of things. So we haven't done the GM side of things for anything yet, actually. I don't think. Yeah. So maybe we should do that as well.
I don't mind saving some of the GM stuff for the even on the stream we had some backend stuff that we developed, but saving a little bit of that for our outside of the stream I'm okay with too.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, it's still
I'm not putting.
You're gone.
Sorry, good.
I would just say, well, we're still gonna have to. I still want us to make a version of it for the Kickstarter to show off. So yeah, it's gonna be that's gonna be public. So we might as well draft it on stream as well.
Okay, for sure. Well, okay, yeah, I'm okay with that.
But yeah, I think that's it really. We've done monsters, we've done magic items. What we haven't done is a GM section for like describing a faction, their secrets, and planning adventures for them. And we haven't done a profession yet. And then, yeah, we're kind of almost there really. Does that mean we run out of stream content? What do we do after that? I guess we can start refining things on stream.
I think the hardest part about this whole process of writing a game book is that, right? And doing some of that on stream is pretty important. So
the refining part, you mean?
Yeah, because that's the part where you do the real writing, and it's the part that we do at home in our desks and like, all right, this has to sound good, and this has to like be fleshed out. But I don't mind taking some of that. We can't do the whole book that way, obviously. We just have to do writing.
Yeah. Okay.
But even things like, for example, developing your book, right? Like we're developing this PDF, writing the art briefs, thinking about the layout, all this stuff. This is other stuff I think is kind of interesting. That
you're right. We could do that on stream sometime as well, especially if we find an artist and we do want to do some artwork before we go to Kickstarter. So we could do some art briefs as well. Yeah, you're right. Let me write down these ideas as well.
Sure. You'll never, as long as we're making things, you will never run out of stream content.
Yeah. I know that's true. Yeah, but I meant, yeah. Okay.
So next week, I think the idea is one, let's work on a profession or 2 new professions.
Yeah.
Because also the idea of viewing the professions 5e is we want to, in the source book, we have our own system of Avallen, but we also want to introduce the idea of humble origins more to Dungeons and Dragons. And Dungeons and Dragons, they have that system of like backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is to give players the option to start at level 0, right? Have a level 0 system and develop that, and then have our profession system be like the backgrounds for when Dungeons and Dragons characters end up choosing their class.
That is it. And then I think my intent is to give the backgrounds a stronger mechanical presence so that players at level quote 0 still have something to play with because they won't have their class yet. Exactly. Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about class professions and develop professions. We had a few that we already thought about: cleaning guards, carpenters. Again, I like sailors. Sailors make sense to me too.
Yeah. I think,
and it's not fully fleshed out, so it's definitely still very much open development space.
Yeah, I think I settled on. Oh, they're not here. They're somewhere. I'll send you the list. I think it was soldier, sailor, some kind of like acolyte, like hermit kind of one.
Okay.
Someone who's like a servant or an assistant in like households, that kind of thing. We haven't covered that yet at all.
Uber driver.
I forget the 5th one, so I'll let you know. Yeah.
Cool. So hopefully, Zulfia, bring some ideas to the table to hang out. And again, we're not going to talk about any single one of those, but I think we'll be going into the nitty gritty of how to make some new professions and expand.
So shout out Zulfia, shout out Cat Ravensword, shout out Moonabons, and everyone else that comes by.
Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for talking. Thanks for the ideas. And if you're not on, sounds good. You'll get some ideas to help you with. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out and sharing. And then there is a Discord, right, Darren? That if you're catching later.
Zulfia, are you in the Discord? You must be, right? That's probably how you found us, I'm sure. But if you're not, you can find our Discord on our website, adderstonegames.co.uk or legendsofAvallen.co.uk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks again. We'll be back here next next Thursday. What is it there? What Thursday for you too?
Yep. Thursday.
Okay, so see you next Thursday. Signing off from Japan.
Yep. Signing off from Cardiff. So take it easy, guys.
Right.
See you then.
We need a good sign off. May the
Um,
ones grace your travels. No, what's a good?
may you continue to make legends or tell legends or
Oh
something.
no, what's a well? How do you say goodbye in Welsh?
Oh, hey Dale. No worries, man. We changed our time, so it's probably quite early for you where you are.
Yeah. Sorry. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. And but you know, talk in the Discord if you're like, oh hey, you guys were talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to
always happy to discuss afterwards more. How do we say goodbye in Welsh? We say hwyl, HWL, I think HWL, hwyl.
Okay, so Dale's asking, is
time?
It the new time?
Yeah, so the time is 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. UK time, which I think is like 7 a.m. East Coast to 9 a.m. East Coast.
Yeah, then that's partially because otherwise I would get up at like 5:30 or 6 a.m. to do the stream.
Yeah.
We're doing it. Okay. So I will see you. We will see you later. How's that?
That's a terrible pun, but very good. Yeah. Every Thursday. Every Thursday. Yeah.
Every Thursday until the end of time.
Until the end of time. Yeah. All right. Will do.
I will see you, my friend.
Yeah. Very good, brother.
Right,
Latest.
Shout Dale. Yeah. Hopefully see you next week, man.
Yeah.
We'll talk soon. Thank you, guys.
Bye.